My next guest is a heavyweight contender from the state of Virginia, and on July 16th, he will be stepping into the MMA cage for the final time in his career when he takes on Jerrod Winston. That happens at Anthony Pettis FC6 in Richmond, Virginia, and he joins me right now, Bobby Sopko. Bobby the Hitman, welcome. It's a pleasure to get an opportunity to meet you, sir.
Hey, what's up, man? I appreciate you having me on here.
Well, I wanted to first and foremost ask you a little bit. APFC, we all know who Anthony Pettis is. It's a huge opportunity. You're going to be fighting in the Richmond Convention Center. I mean, you picked a hell of a card to go out on.
Yeah. I've been doing this since, early 2000s. I took a 13-year break in between, so I haven't been active the whole time. But, I think my first fight was at the show place in Mechanicsville. It's a bingo hall or a swap meet or one of those things. I fought at the TED at the Constant Convocation Center. That's pretty cool. For Cage Fest, that was actually where I had my first pro fight. But nothing on this level. Especially when you have like UFC Fight Pass involved. Obviously, Anthony Pettis, YouTube. That's pretty cool. So yeah, it's a good opportunity to go out. Go out in style.
Isn't it wild to think like from when you started back in 2008? So you're talking, what, or shoot, 16 years ago, 17 years ago,
Yeah.
give or
Yeah,
take.
it's been a while.
And you talk about fighting in like flea markets and where
Mm-hmm.
the sport kind of was. It was like way more primal back then, and it was
Oh,
like
sure.
and it was edgy. And now
Yeah.
it's like mainstream on ESPN. And if I were to ask you 16 years ago, hey, do you think this will ever make it to ESPN? You would have laughed at me. And now here we
Oh,
are.
absolutely. Yeah, I miss those days. I think you and I have talked in the past, through Messenger. I kind of miss the freak shows of Pride and, one style versus the other. The one thing that irks me is these uniforms. I've always enjoyed, like the individuality of the sport, everything from the shorts and the different sponsors to the banners in the corner. You kind of lose that individuality now when you have the uniforms. But I get it. It's a big business. It's money. So at the end of the day, it makes sense, but it's not the same. It's not what it used to be.
There
The good
definitely
old
is a
days.
more corporate vibe to it. I
For
think
sure.
I think that's a fair statement. And Bobby, I kind of wanted to ask you, like you and I were roughly the same age, and
Hmm.
I think about it, and it's like, man, I hurt myself walking my dog all the time. Like I go to the gym, I get on chest day, I work out, and it's like I'm wrecked for like 3 or 4 days. And here you
Yeah.
are, you're going into a cage fight, you're fighting some guy that's like a real young freaking stud. And I'm just
Yeah.
thinking to myself, like, how the hell are you doing this in your early 40s? Like, how are you managing to do all this? And you're a family guy on top of all this. I know you work and stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
how do you put all this together and find the time to do all this?
You know, all those things I have too. It hurts getting out of bed. It hurts, when the dog pulls the leash. Yeah, chest days kill me, my shoulders, all of that, it comes with being older. I think for me, I went through, I fought like 5 times as an amateur, and twice as a pro in a very short period of time. And, I was super committed, training 6, 7 days a week, fighting anyone, anywhere. We always, fought tough guys. And then I went through a period where I wanted to fight, but I wasn't really dedicated. My family was growing and I pulled out of a ton of fights. I'm not afraid to say that. If you go to Tapology, Sure Dog, you can see it. A lot of them, there was injuries, there was personal issues, but a lot of it was just I shouldn't have took the fight in the first place. And there's been a lot of backlash over the years on the internet, and and it's rightfully so. Promoters, matchmakers, I did my share of burning my bridge, I guess you could say. And Chris Rollins with Rocket Combat Sports, Josh Sparks, those guys, a couple of years ago, I reached out to them because I kind of wanted to do it one more time. And, it was kind of iffy. A lot of people were telling them not to put me on the card, that I wouldn't show or I'd pull out. Again, rightfully so. And, I fought 3 times for them. So I have to give them a lot of credit because they were the ones that kind of gave me a chance, took a shot on me. And, I definitely wouldn't have had this opportunity if it wasn't for them. But yeah, I mean, I got 5 daughters, I've been married almost 19 years, work full-time job. I just like to do it. I guess because I still can, so I want to. I mean, if you look at my record, I guess not too well, but I've always fought, like I said, tough guys, top guys. I've never shied away from anyone. Coming off a 13-year layoff, I fought Tony, who, insane at the age he is, and he's still fighting. But, at the time, he was the #1 ranked heavyweight in Virginia. And then I fought Will Moreno like 2 months later. I mean, this guy's an Abu Dhabi, level grappler, black belt. It's not, to me, it is what it is, man. It's another guy. It's another man across the cage, and with Jerrod, I mean, he's a big dude. He's a young, strong guy with a lot of momentum. At first glance, I mean, shoot, I think when they posted, the poster, everyone, I think someone commented, "How old is that guy?" Again, I get it. You know what I mean? I expect that kind of stuff. And if you dig deeper, you look at my record and, his amateur record, his pro debut, the hype behind him, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I've never been in it for, the wins, the losses. I just want to go in there and do something that I love to do. And, hopefully at the end of the day, get my hand raised. I mean, that's obviously the ultimate goal.
We look at Jerrod, and you hit on a few things, Bobby, that make him dangerous. I think of power right away. I think we see that it's pretty evident that he's a powerful man. But he also brings a really unique skill set into the equation. His jiu-jitsu in particular is a pretty dangerous threat. He's had a lot of success with the Kimura in the past. And when I interviewed him, he wasn't shy about talking about that. He was like, "I have a really good Kimura, and if I can lock that on him, I'm going to go for it." When you look at this guy and you look at his skills, the jiu-jitsu and all that other stuff, like when you shift into your mind, like, okay, well, how do I beat this guy? Like, what's your answer?
You know, it's funny. Everyone keeps messaging me like, "Hey, man, I watched this guy's tape. Watch out for his Kimura." Yeah, I know. I've seen it too. It's legit. His grappling's legit. His stand-up's legit. It's kind of like when Ronda Rousey first came on the scene. You knew she was going for the armbar, and she still got it. So I mean, I know he'll go for it. For me, I want to keep things standing, and that's no secret. I have a boxing background, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm aware of it, and I know he's dangerous on his feet, on the ground. Hopefully some of this old man strength will come through, and it will be a good fight, and I'll get the W at the end of the day. But yeah, he's a tough opponent. He's a scary opponent. He's definitely by far, even though it's his pro debut, by far my toughest opponent to date. And that's no disrespect to anyone I fought, but just his size and his athleticism and his age, it's a lot to deal with.
It is definitely a lot to deal with. You're going in there, though, you're taking the challenge. And I did kind of want to ask you, like, at what point did you decide that this was indeed going to be your last fight? Here on the 16th, it's right around the corner. You've been doing this for a number of years, but I'm sure you've probably flirted with this idea as you've aged, gotten older, your kids start growing up, and life starts to happen, really. Like things happen for us old guys. So I did want to ask you, like, at what point did you know in the back of your mind that this is going to be it for me? July 16th, 2023. That's all she wrote.
I mean, if you ask my wife, this has been it the last 3-4 months. And I get the frustration, from my wife, because again, this is probably the third or fourth time I've said, this is it, this is it, this is it. But, once you get in there, and even if you're not getting your hand raised, it's hard to explain if you've never been in there. It's something that you just crave. You like to do it. You want to do it. This opportunity, though, I was done. I was completely done after my last fight with Tony Horn. I trained really hard for that fight, and this wasn't even my radar. Then I saw, that Anthony Pettis was bringing the show to Richmond. I have a history with David Arvello, who is the matchmaker. And, I admit I reached out to him like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And, he said he had this young debut heavyweight, and, things kind of just transpired from there. And I remember having the conversation with my wife in our kitchen, and she just looked at me like, "Are you serious?" But when I laid it out for her and I explained to her, that this was a big show, this was at the, going to be on UFC Fight Pass, YouTube, Anthony Pettis and all that. She even remembered, who Anthony Pettis was from, back in the day when we all used to get together and watch the fights at everyone's houses. She understood, and she's actually leaving for Jacksonville for 5 days for work. And she kind of made her flight arrangements a little bit later Sunday to leave out of Richmond so she can come to the fight, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this is 100% it, win, lose, draw, done. A lot of it has to do with my body. I mean, it's hard to keep doing this. I wish I was good in golf or tennis, and I'm not, and I don't get the same, excitement out of those things. But what a better way to go out, man. This is pretty cool. So
what a way to go out, indeed. And then also think about not only the stage, but the possibility of getting your arm raised against like an elite heavyweight prospect, such as like this guy is no joke. Like he very well could, regardless of what happens in this fight. Like I look at him, I'm like, yeah, this is the type of guy that's going to move on. Like he's going to go beyond the regional scene. He's going to fight in Bellator or PFL or one of those big shows, 100%. And for you, Bobby, though, but for you specifically, you mentioned like you're a family guy, you're married, you have daughters and all that other stuff. Like the idea of like going out on top over a guy like this, like that has got to be something you've been thinking about every mile that you've run, every sparring session that you've done, every time you're going into the gym. That's got to be permeating in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Rocky, you know what I mean? The upset, the one no one's looking. I mean, all eyes are on him. I understand that. I know MMA really doesn't have an A side and B side like boxing does. But let's be real. He, even though I'm the local guy, he's the A side. I'm the B side. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I would love to go in there and just catch this guy and get my hand raised and ride out into the sunset. That would be perfect. And yeah, that's constantly going through my mind. You know what I mean? Because honestly, that's, if you're not thinking that way, then really, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So it would be cool. It would be pretty sick. I just hope I'm not the one on his highlight reel that gets him into Bellator, or the PFL or Dana White Contender Series, but at the end of the day, I'll get in there and I'll bang with them and see what happens. You know what I mean? I can't go in there, scared or thinking, I could be a highlight reel for, on ESPN and all that. I mean, it is what it is. The people that laugh at those highlights and have something to say, they'd never get in the cage. They'd never get into the ring. It is what it is.
You have to take all of it with a grain of salt, because the people that would, talk trash to you and everyone who's a big guy on the internet, they're not big guys in real life. Like, and
exactly.
So it's one of those things where it's like,
this sport brings out the absolute worst in those guys. It's just, it's bad.
Oh, trust me, even I get it. I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm not even a fighter. Why are you even talking crap about me? I'm just a humble podcast host. But trust me, I get it all the time.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of ask you, there are two real things, but let's talk about the most important thing. You and Winston have come up with an agreement. You're both fighting for a charitable cause. I'd like you to talk about that a little bit.
So I actually found out from the guys at APFC that, he, I don't want to put his business out there, that he had lost someone close to him from suicide. And he had teamed up with, I don't want to say this wrong, Courageous Healing, I think it is.
Okay.
Sorry if I got that wrong. And he dedicated this fight to his family member and to mental health, which is a real thing. I spent almost 6 years as a counselor at a juvenile detention center. Mental health is a real thing. I've lost family members to suicide, and dealt with mental health issues, all over. And, it just seemed like the right thing to do. I reached out to David Arvello, who's the matchmaker. I reached out to the guys at APFC. I said, look, it's not much, but I want to take, a percentage of my purse and I want to donate it to whoever he wants it to go to. And that got back to him, and, he was super grateful. We exchanged a few messages online, which isn't super common when you're getting ready to fight. But, I think he mentioned it on your podcast, we're fighting for a good cause, for a good reason, very few times have I ever disliked my opponent, and this is just another situation where, I have no hard feelings against him, and I'm glad to support, what he's supporting. And, at the end of the day, we both are doing this for the right reasons.
Yeah, and I can tell you, in my chats with Winston off the record, that didn't make it in the podcast, he was just like, yeah, I was completely blown away. A complete stranger is willing to do something like that. It just goes to show you what kind of man he is. And I'm grateful to get to share the cage with him. I'm paraphrasing what he told me, but
yeah, sure. Yeah.
What he told me. I think that's really neat. And, I hope that charity can benefit from that. Kudos to both of you men for making that happen. And I wanted to give you the final word, Bobby. I mean, it's one of those things, like, you get an opportunity to fight on this stage for Anthony Pettis. A lot of people don't get an opportunity like that. You get an opportunity to fight your final fight basically in your backyard. Your kids are probably old enough now where they can probably appreciate what it is that you're doing maybe a little bit more. So I kind of want to just ask you one final question. It's simply this, like, getting your arm raised on July 16th. Like, what would that mean for you when you think back of, like, all the fights that you've had and all the things, all the sacrifice that you've made for this sport and the love that you've given MMA, even though MMA didn't always love you back? What are some of the things that a win, if you had to encapsulate it all, like, what are some of the, like, what would all this mean for you, I guess, is the question.
I mean, it would just be validation. I mean, getting an opportunity to fight on this card, it wasn't earned by merit. I'll be the first one to say that. If you look at my record, I'm not on the card because, I have this awesome win streak or, any of that. I'm a grinder. I've been doing it a long time. I'm the old veteran, the one, give the guy some experience in there and, all that. But for me, for my two oldest girls, they're old enough to know I've been doing this a long time. They're too cool to, like, really, care one way or the other. My younger girls are, like, more excited, and they got to watch my last two fights. Unfortunately, they didn't turn out too well, but they were just super stoked to, just see me walk out and, them announce my name on TV, even though, it's like pay-per-view streaming and all that. But for me to, go out there and to get my hand raised, knowing my wife's going to be in the stands, and she didn't always get a chance to go to all my fights. She gets a little anxious about them. That would be cool. And yeah, I mean, man, that would just be top of the world type stuff to get your hand raised and know my girls are watching at home and my wife's in the stands, my friends, it's in Richmond, and it's a huge upset. Everyone loves the upset. So it would be awesome, man. It would be pretty cool.
July 16th, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check this fight out. It should be streaming on UFC Fight Pass, but I would encourage everybody. Bout orders change all the time, so make sure that you're following Anthony Pettis FC on Instagram. That way you can keep up to date on all the things that are happening with this particular fight card. Bobby, I want to give you the final word. If there's anyone out there that you'd like to thank before I let you go, let's knock that out.
Yeah, a couple sponsors. Milagani Eyewear, a friend of mine. She rocks these sunglasses, and they're awesome. If you go to my Instagram or my Facebook, I've got links to all my sponsors. Great sunglasses. Cativa CBD, awesome stuff. I've been using it this whole camp plus some. I have a code on my Instagram where if you use I think it's my last name, 15. So Sopko 15, you get 15% off. And then of course, Fight Brothers, Fight Bros. It's a group on Facebook, Instagram, social media that Dave Fournette, he's always supported me, and he's a good guy. So yeah, those are the ones that got my back, along with a whole lot of other people. But I definitely appreciate their support and their help through all this.
Well, Bobby, I appreciate you pulling up, and I wish you the best of skill and a performance of a lifetime on July 16th, sir.
Appreciate you, man.